You did.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of Traffic Corner Tuesday. I am Brian Tafisek, Vice President here at SPAC Consulting. As we get going, a couple housekeeping items for everyone. Please mute your mics if you will. We'll try to avoid some background noise. Make sure everyone can hear what we're saying, and like I said, no background or anything. And then also, if you want to join the conversation, there is the chat box over on the side, so please feel free to use that to ask questions or share a comment, whatever you feel. So we like to have these be interactive if we can. All right, first, just a quick thank you for participating. We started these webinars to share our experience with others, and we keep seeing a growing number of participants, so we think that we've got something here, and we're definitely having fun at it. We hope you are enjoying it as well. We would also encourage you, if you find this interesting, to explore our blog, Mike on Traffic. We share New case studies, how-to articles, industry news each week, so please feel free to check that out. And then also at our SPAC Academy, we have a variety of traffic engineering tools designed to improve your productivity and bottom line. All right, so we've got two people here with you today. Unfortunately, Mike Spack is not here. He is at TRB, so we're moving on without him. As I said, I am Brian Fisek, Vice President of SPAC Consulting. I've done a lot of traffic engineering projects, more than, well, a lot, let's just put it at that. I'm a grad at the U of M, University of Minnesota. I consider myself an expert in traffic modeling software, and one of the fun parts of my job is trying to create creative solutions to different traffic and transportation issues. You can also catch me on Mike on Traffic. I've got a few industry publications out there and several industry manuals. With me as well is Max Moreland.
Hello, I am Max Moreland. I've been with SPAC Consulting for a number of years. I'm a professional engineer, also went to the University of Minnesota. I kind of got my hand in a lot of pots over here, helping with our data collection, our trip generation, as well as a lot of the traffic studies we do here.
All right, so if you didn't catch that before, this is brought to you by SPAC Enterprise. We got a lot of different arms. Feel free to explore our whole universe. Just getting quickly to the schedule, today we're looking at removing unwarranted traffic signals. We'll be back in a couple weeks with an overview of our new traffic impact study format. We've changed a few things. We think you'll like that, so hope to see you back in a couple weeks. And there will be more to come. We'll have a schedule out for February with the new dates and topics, but generally I think we're going to try to do this about every other week and get on that type of rotation. So keep on the lookout for more as we go along.
So our topic for today is signal removing. When to remove a signal. There are different reasons for removing a signal. The big one is maybe in the past a signal was needed at a location, but traffic patterns have changed and the volumes have dropped, and it's really not doing anyone any good to have that signal at that spot anymore. You may also want to consider traffic control change. Maybe it's a good place to have a roundabout, so you're removing the signal to put in a roundabout. There's several different reasons for signal removal.
And I'll chime in quickly here too. This is for a permanent signal. So There are a lot of temporary signals out there. Those typically, they might get placed with construction, other reasons, but obviously they're temporary for a reason. We expect those to come down, even though it might be a number of years. So in this case, we're looking at permanent signals. It's been put up, you've got the mast arms and poles, and now you're going to take it down for some reason.
So straight out of the MUTCD, it says that if changes in traffic patterns eliminate the need for a traffic control signal, consideration should be given to removing it and replacing it with appropriate alternative traffic control devices, if any are needed. There are different, when we put in a signal, we go through different warrants to see if a signal is justified and needed at a certain location at an intersection. And the failure for a signal to satisfy any warrant, any one warrant or any of the warrants, is not in itself justification to remove it. Just because it's not meeting all the warrants anymore isn't right away a reason to take out a signal.
Mm-hmm. A little bit further guidance from the MUTCD. This is about as specific as they will get in terms of looking at it and saying if it's no longer justified. They don't say specifically here's what will justify or not justify a signal. That's really left to engineering judgment. But this is just further guidance. Now you've looked at it, you've decided, hey, we don't think a signal is necessary. They do list these 5 steps here. It's a lot of text. I won't read it all. You can read it as you're looking at it. But it's generally just make sure you have the appropriate control afterward. You're looking, you're doing your studies, you're planning for it, and then you're ready to move on afterward. I mean, that's the key thing is what comes next. If you take the signal away, what are you going to do? So making sure that you're not making the situation worse by taking that signal out.
Yeah, as Brian just mentioned, there's no really guidelines from a federal level that tell you when to take it out exactly. Different states have different recommendations or guidelines. For example, in Minnesota, the Minnesota DOT says that if you are getting less than 60% of the volumes for a warrant, then it's probably a good idea to take it out.
For the warrant thresholds, the volume warrants.
Yep. If you're at 60 to 80% of those volume thresholds, then it's kind of in a gray area. Kind of depends on your judgment, maybe doing a study about it. And if you're meeting 80%, it's probably a good idea just to leave it in.
Again, there's other states that may have different guidance, so it's important to check with your DOT or and just check to make sure if they have other guidance in addition to the MUTCD. But even in this area with MnDOT, they have those guidance. They list it as guidance, so it really should be something that you're applying a lot of engineering judgment to and figuring out what you're doing next and why. What are the reasons for taking that out? So right along with that, as we think about it, there's the guidelines that you look at, looking at that engineering judgment for taking it out. So what could be some of the benefits? Why would you want to take that out? And one of the main ones is you get some happy drivers, particularly for the main line. You get decreased delay instead of having to stop at a stoplight. Presumably, if you're going to two-way stop or if you're going to a roundabout or something, you might get those decreased delays. So that could be definitely a nice benefit for a majority of the drivers in there.
Another benefit is for better recognition of the classification of the road. If you have one signal on a local road and it's the only signal out there, removing it could, more clearly signify that this is a local road. Or if there was a signal on an area on an arterial road that is kind of causing a jam up, removing that will kind of better ensure flow on the arterial.
Yep, so like Max said, on a local road, maybe there's a cut-through problem. So again, you want to put the signals where you're recognizing that traffic should be and try to direct those drivers to where you want to go.
The benefit of signal removal is it is likely to lower rear end and other types of crashes. Signals are not safety tools. They're not there to improve the safety. They're there to improve movement through the intersection. And if you can remove a signal, that is likely to remove low rear end crashes.
So if you do have that problem, that's something to consider, again, as part of your reasoning for removing. And then another one, red light running. If you have an issue with that, obviously you take away the signal, that's no longer a problem. So, and this would get back to that engineering judgment, is part of the reason you're having red light running because it's an unjustified signal. So a little bit of a chicken and egg there, but if that's part of the reason you think people are running the red light, maybe that signal shouldn't be there in the first place. All right, so on the flip side then, what do you need to be concerned about as you're looking at signals and removing them?
Yeah, kind of the opposite of the first one of the benefits is, we have a photo of Bryant behind the wheel here, is...
Not quite me, but
if
I've been there.
If you remove a signal, it will increase side street delay because you're all of a sudden at a stop sign, so you've got to wait for the main line to get through. It may increase side street delay.
Yeah, and it will depend a little bit on what traffic control you're using. But if you're going from a signal to two-way stop, that's obviously a concern that you're increasing that delay. Goes right along with it that you could be increasing your right angle crashes. And like we just said, this really depends on what you're replacing the signal with. But if you go to two-way stop, even an all-way stop in some cases, there's the potential for those right angle crashes to increase as people blow through the stop sign a little bit easier than they blow through red light.
Another possible issue is, depending on the traffic control you go with, there could be impacts to peds and bikes. Whereas before, if there was a signal, they had kind of a phase in the signal to cross. Whereas now, if you're putting in maybe a side street stop, they may be playing a little Frogger as they cross the street.
Hopefully not, but Yeah, just like Max said, you're really going from active control for pedestrians and for bicycles, where they have something that tells them when to cross, to a passive control where they're basically relying on that eye contact with the driver. They're relying on the driver to stop and allow them to cross. And obviously a lot of states have laws that say pedestrians have the right of way at intersections, but in a practical sense, most drivers don't stop. They tend not to recognize pedestrians, but
Right.
Hopefully we're getting better at that. All right, so with that type of backdrop, this is a case study. This was brought to us from a couple people who saw previous presentations. They thought they had a great case study here, and we agreed with them. This is fantastic, so we turned this into a case study for this particular one. So a special thanks to Andrew Webb and Julie Luna. I believe Julie is on with us today, so hopefully she can help us out if there's some questions that we can't answer. But definitely special thanks to them for reaching out to us and for really working with us as we looked at their project and providing us the information, background, and what they were looking at. This is a great case study, we think, and we're really interested to see what happens next as we'll go through here in a second.
So in this case study, the corridor we're looking at is Silver Avenue, right down through, this is downtown Albuquerque. It's a residential and retail area, and there's a good number of pedestrians in the area. Silver Avenue is generally one lane in each direction, and there's parking on one or both sides, depending on exactly where you're at. The ADTs are shown here, kind of varying throughout the corridor. And with this kind of being a downtown area, most of the intersections are signalized in the area, so there's no real all-way stops or stop-controlled intersections to kind of compare to how operations would be in the downtown area. So this is a good case study for them to be able to see how things work without signals in their downtown.
Yeah, they actually looked at a couple other corridors, Gold Avenue, and some other ones, and as they were reviewing different data, this is the corridor that really stood out as having a chance. There's a chance for removal. There were some major transit lines, other characteristics on the other corridors that they determined just would not be good from that standpoint of removing the signals. They really needed those signals for progression, for the transit, for those other options, but this corridor had the right mix of characteristics.
Yeah. So
as I started with that, I started looking at the characteristics. What they were really looking at is what's the balance, and this really gets back to that engineering judgment for traffic signals to begin with. Is in this corridor and in a lot of corridors, we call it vehicle centric, where it's focused on the driver. It's focused on cars. How do we move cars most efficiently? We put signals in, we coordinate the signal timing, we allow people to move through the area very quickly in their car, and to the detriment to other types of travel, basically. Pedestrians, bikes can hurt transit depending on how they mix in, but so as they were looking at these characteristics, that's really what started this project, is trying to figure out how can we better balance between the different modes of travel, how can we improve the pedestrian experience, because this is downtown area. They want to make sure it's good for pedestrians. They want to make sure it's easy to move around and get people to those stores, to their homes, where they want to go. So really, as we look at that balance, there's no real right or wrong answer. So again, we're falling back on engineering judgment for a lot of this, and really trying to determine, is it a zero-sum game? If we improve pedestrians, does that mean we're decreasing the service level for vehicles? We hope not. Ideally we raise the level of service for everybody, but in some cases it might be that trade-off. Drivers are going to have a little bit more delay, which means pedestrians are going to be able to get around better.
Yeah, well said. So here is Silver Avenue itself, kind of a photo of what was done. So in October of 2016, so pretty recently, Albuquerque decided to bag these several signals. You can see in the photo here they put bags over the signal heads. They also put up some stop signs and some various warning signs. It's a pretty low-cost experiment. I mean, just get a few bags. I don't know how much a bag costs, but it can't be too much. And it's a pretty low-cost, low-risk scenario. It's easy to switch back if they determine, this wasn't the right move. They can just take the bags off, move the stop signs, and be back in business. So this was originally for a 6-month test, which started a few months ago.
Yep, so we're in the middle of that test right now, and I've got another photo here. Again, you can see the bags, see the stop signs. Nice and conveniently, we've got a pedestrian on this one. But through 3 months here, what they found is basically been positive. They have had no calls to the mayor or governor that at least they made us aware of, people complaining, what did you do to our corridor? There's been a nice improvement in left turn movements. So before, with the 1 lane in each direction, those left turns had to wait for their gap. Now with the all-way stop, they take turns with everybody else. So that's been a nice unexpected bonus, I think, that they weren't expecting. There's been at least personal stories where they've talked to a few people who have come forward and said it is easier to move around. They do feel more comfortable as a pedestrian moving back and forth. So again, part of those initial ones are all good so far, halfway through this test.
Yeah, and as the test goes on, the city will add more warning signs where needed. They're monitoring the situation, and select areas of issue, they will add additional signs.
Yeah, I think they did identify 1 or 2 areas that they said needed additional, whether it be another stop sign, make sure people are paying attention to it, traffic control change ahead or stop sign ahead. So yeah, there are some various ways when you make this type of change to make sure you're adding those signs, making sure drivers have good warning of what's coming up next.
Yeah, if something's been a signal for however many years, it might take a few signs to get people to realize something has changed.
Yeah. So that's kind of it from the case study. Like I said, they looked at those characteristics. They saw the volume levels. They weren't there for the warrants. There was that possibility to change it. They looked at other characteristics as to what they were looking for and decided to go with the test. So as we look at our final thoughts here on the project and everything, first of all, I just want to give a thanks again to the city, to Albuquerque, for sharing this information, and we want to make sure we keep in touch and update as to whether this became a permanent change, whether they saw any other issues or not. But also, we'll open that up to anyone. If you've got some interesting case studies, if you've got something you think would be good for this type of quick chat, please let us know. We're always interested to learn more about what's going on in other areas, and we think it helps everybody.
Yeah, and we really love this experiment of bagging the signals. It's low cost, it's easy to do, and gives you real results and really helps you determine what you should move forward with. And it makes me think of a few years back, a signal near my apartment in South Minneapolis got bagged, and then it was eventually removed. And now I drive through there and I think, why was there ever a signal in this location? So things like this are nice, easy ways to really help improve the flow in an area.
One thing we do recommend is before and after studies, and in that, what we would like to see for studies like this is some real good data, self-promotion, go get our cameras, take some videos of the intersections, get the volumes, get the figure out the delays, cues, that type of thing, and do that real before and after studies so you can see what kind of difference it's making. Is it positive? Are you getting more people through? Are people avoiding the area? There's always that chance that people go to other areas. So doing the before and after study can really give you a handle on what happened and give you that knowledge to move forward to other areas.
And this comes to one of the things we like to think is keep it simple, stupid. Our profession should remove unnecessary infrastructure that's not doing any good, costing money, possibly even doing harm to people in the area. So the less we can have, the more correct infrastructure we can have, the better.
Yeah, that works for the drivers too. Anything we can do to simplify it.
Right.
If it's a easy stop sign, that can be better for everybody than trying to make a complicated intersection that just confuses people. And right along with what Max said there too, if we're only putting out the infrastructure that's necessary, we're eliminating unnecessary, we're going to be saving money in a number of ways. One is just the maintenance. For a particular study like this, if the city decides to remove those signals, they would be able to reuse those in other areas. So reusing the poles, reusing the mast arms. That would be that'd be some savings in future projects as well.
And lastly, one of our final thoughts is that a situation like this, there isn't specific guidelines in the MUTCD or other things. So it really kind of lets us have a little bit of fun. And fun is relative, I guess, for traffic engineers. This may not be seen as fun to other people, but projects like this are in the realm of engineering judgment. It really lets us think and experiment and try new things. And that's kind of what makes the profession enjoyable.
All right, so we are bumping up against the end of our time here today. Are there any final questions or comments from anyone? We've got the chat room available there. Please feel free to type anything in if you've got a question or comment. All right, well, seeing nothing, then I'll remind everyone again that our next traffic corner will be in 2 weeks. Do we have that date right?
No.
No. That should be the 24th. So I'll quickly ignore that slide. But our next one will be January 24th, and again, we'll do the overview of our new consulting traffic impact study report format. So again, trying to shake it up a little bit and try to get the data in front of people that they really need to make decisions. So with that, we'll thank everyone again for coming, and feel free to contact myself, Mike's back, or Max, any of us if you do have any questions or comments after this, and in particular if you do have some interesting case studies, we'd love to talk to you and potentially put one of these together for your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.